Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's IAS classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to see current affairs of 12th January 2022. In this lecture, we are going to discuss 6 topics which are very much relevant from our UPSC point of view. So let's get started with our discussion and let us have a look over topics. Now we are going to have our discussion. So first topic, it is about treating the planet well and aid progress. Actually, this article which is mainly talking about environmental problems that we are dealing with, and as well as we are going to talk about what is a need, what is a way forward. And this article is important from environment and ecology, which mainly comes under this GS paper 3. And next topic, it is about extending GST compensation. So this article which is talking about this GST. So already we know that in 2017, our government of India came up with this one nation, one tax regime, that is GST, that is goods and service tax. It is one indirect tax. So whenever government imposed this indirect tax regime, so states, they need to surrender some tax power to center. So because of this, that will lead to some revenue loss to state, especially manufacturing states, because this GST, it is mainly like whenever the consumer, they are mainly buying that product, there this tax will be corrected. Okay, so it is a destination based tax but not manufacturer based tax. So because of this, especially some manufacturing states, they are mainly having, say, this revenue loss. So what this center said, that we are mainly ensure 40% of annual growth for states, and if there is any shortfall for this 14%, so center will be going to give some compensation, that is called as GST compensation. But where the central government get money to give compensation for the states? So for that, central government came up with GST Compensation Act of 2017 and started imposing some taxes, compensation cess, okay, imposition of compensation cess or cess, especially on some luxury goods, and whatever the amount that is mainly collected under this cess, that is mainly used for compensating compensation that is given to states. But recently, due to this COVID-19, there were some issues which mainly arised. Okay, so that is the thing which mainly talked in this article. So this is some brief background that you need to remember. So this topic is important from our economy point of view, which mainly comes under GS paper 3. And next topic, it is about hate speech. So many times we are seeing this hate speech which is mainly seen in news. So this is important from our polity point of view, which mainly comes under GS paper 2. And next topic, it is about BrahMos advanced variant test fired. So this article mainly talking about this BrahMos missile. This article is important from your science and technology, which mainly comes under GS paper 3. And this topic is especially important from your prelims. And next topic, it is about India's passport rank improves to 83 from 90. Okay, it is talking about India's passport rank, and this will be important from our governance, which mainly comes under GS paper 2. And next topic, it is about more curbs for Ganga Sagar Mela. So here we are going to focus on this, what is this Ganga Sagar Mela. So this will be important from art and culture, which mainly comes under GS paper 1. So these are the 6 topics. Now we are going to have our discussion. So now let us try to see first topic. It is regarding treating the planet well and aid progress. So if you're talking about central theme, it mainly says that we need proper integrated perspective. Okay, an integrated perspective is necessary as social and environmental problems cannot be addressed in isolation anymore. So if you're talking about social problems, for example, we will be having poverty, we will be having malnutrition, and if we want to deal with the social problems separately and environment related problems separately, so it is not a solution. So whenever we are having an approach that we are going to deal with this poverty and some malnutrition, some social related problems and environment related problems separately, means so we are not going to get a good outcome. So we need an integrated approach, and this should deal with both environment related problems and as well as poverty. Okay, so this is central theme. And now let us try to see this topic, why it is in use, because this human development in report, okay, 2020 human development report of United Nations Development Program simply UNDP. And the title of that report is The Next Frontier Human Development and Anthropocene. So this index, which mainly proposed Planetary Pressure Adjusted Human Development Index, it came up with this planetary pressure adjusted human development index. Okay, it is talking about planetary pressure adjusted human development index. And not only this index, but there are several index like gender development index, gender inequality index, multi-dimensional poverty index. They also talking about the proper attention to be taken by these policymakers to deal with social and as well as environment problems integratedly. So if you're talking about some facts regarding that planetary pressures adjusted human development index, so this planetary pressure adjusted human development index, which mainly adjusts the standard HDI, okay, standard human development index by the country's level of carbon dioxide emissions. It mainly focusing on countries' carbon dioxide emissions and as well as material footprint. Okay, and if you're talking about performance of different countries, Norway, okay, Norway falls top. Okay, and if you see, Ireland is also having top position. And if you're talking about US, it is standing at 17, Canada at 16, and also it would fall 45 and 40 places respectively. So it mainly reflects their disproportionate impact on natural resources as well. Okay, and if you're talking about oil and gas rich Gulf states, they also fell steeply. And China would also drop 16 places from the current ranking of 85. So these are some important facts regarding this planetary pressures adjusted human development index. So if we're talking about India's performance, India would mainly move up 8 places in the ranking. Okay, India would mainly move up 8 places in the ranking. So because under this Paris climate deal, okay, under this Paris climate deal, India mainly tried to reduce the emission intensity. Okay, India mainly pledged to reduce this emission intensity of its GDP from 2005 level by 33 to 35%, and the target here is 2030. Okay, so India in this Paris climate deal mainly pledged that it is going to reduce its carbon emissions by 30 to 35% when we are comparing with this 2005 levels. Okay, and India also pledged that it is going to get about 40% of electricity. Okay, 40% of electric power capacity, especially from non-fossil fuel sources by 2030. So this is a target year again. And India also came up with the solar capacity had been increased, especially in India, from 2.6 gigawatts in March 2014 to 30 gigawatts in July 2019. And if you're talking about further more targets, so India is already achieving the target of 20 gigawatts 4 years ahead of the schedule as well. And next one is in 2019 also, India ranked 5th in installed solar energy capacity. And even India came up with this National Solar Mission, and this mission which mainly aims to promote solar energy for power generation and even other uses to make solar energy competitive with this fossil fuel based options as well. So we're talking about challenges, okay, challenges which are mainly faced by India to achieve this sustainable development goals. So what are the challenges? So first and the foremost one here is India's natural resource use is far from efficient. Environmental problems are growing. So if you see in India mostly we can see environment problems are growing here. So if you are talking about some examples, so because of increasing of mining activities in Kerala, that is mainly led to mudslides. Okay, because of high rainfall in Kerala, that is leading to this mudslides and as well as landslides that mainly recently seen in the news. And even because of some developmental projects like building of dams in this tectonically active region like Himalayan region, that is leading to landslides and dam and we can say like glacier outburst flood that we recently seen in Uttarakhand. And number of areas in Himachal Pradesh, there are number of incidents of rock slides, and that led to number of people they mainly killed, especially some tourist bus. And not only that, there is also increasing of sea level. That is one important problem which is mainly faced by coastal states of India. And even India, it is very much vulnerable to these floods because of tsunamis, both in Bay of Bengal and as well as Arabian Sea. In Arabian Sea, recently there is increasing of incidents of tsunamis that mainly seen here. So these are some important effects that are mainly seen because of this climate change. So these are some environmental problems that we are facing. So as evident from the number of ongoing proposed projects here, at the same time about 27.9% of people, they are under this multi-dimensional poverty index. So in this multi-dimensional poverty index, about 27.9, approximately 28% of people, they are under this multi-dimensional poverty index. Okay, and in Kerala, if you are talking about different states, so in the state also the varying of poverty is mainly seen. Especially in Kerala, we can see 1.1% of poverty. But if you see the same poverty levels in Bihar, it is like 52%. Bihar, UP, Jharkhand, and we can see high levels of poverty in these states. And these states are also called as Bimaru states. Right? And if you see some more details, Kerala has an exemplary achievement in human development, and we can see human development value of 0.775. It is well above all India average as well. Okay, but if you're talking about on environmental front, even Kerala is also facing number of environmental related problems regarding heavy rainfalls, related floods and landslides, mudslides because of high mining activities in this Kerala. Okay, so here if you're talking about twin challenges that we are facing, here is poverty alleviation and even environmental safeguarding. So since the Stockholm conference was held, so there have been several summits and initiatives by this United Nations. So the latest being the adoption of 17 sustainable development goals with a specific target to be met by 2030. So if we're talking about recent in this Stockholm conference, so we came up with several initiatives by this United Nations, and latest being adoption, we came with adoption of 17th sustainable development goal, and the target to achieve this 17th sustainable development goal is 2030. So if you want to achieve this sustainable developmental goals, so actually there are 17 sustainable development goals. So you have to know that, and you have to remember that, and you have to mug up it at all. Finally, you have to do that, and please try to make a note of the 17 sustainable development goals. That will become handy when you are writing your mains answer as well. So if you're talking about the sustainable developmental goals, they have acquired high priority in the context of the issue of climate change, and also we can see there will be some impact on society because it is talking about health, hunger and etc. So because of this, it will be having a large impact on society as well. So even sixth assessment report of this IPCC 2021, it also says that we need to limit this global warming at 1.5 degrees level, such that we can address some challenges of this climate change, and we can strengthen our development, and we can also move towards taking some efforts to eradicate poverty as well. So zero poverty, zero hunger, they are first and as well as second sustainable developmental goals. And if you see further more details, according to this Niti Aayog, out of 100 points set for grade of achiever, India mainly scored 60. Okay, and for no poverty, India scored 46. Okay, and for zero level also we are having like 0 to 49 score. So if you're talking about how to achieve the sustainable development goals and how to address the challenges of the social and economic issues, so we already know that there are many gaps that are mainly seen in managing of our environment. So if you're talking about some movements that are mainly held, like Chipko movement, Silent Valley movement, especially these are two most well-known movements of our modern days people movement, especially regarding this climate protection here, right? So not only this, subsequently there is now widespread awareness about environment, and we also took some several initiatives at both levels of government and as well as community, mainly to address the issues at the environment level. But however, when we are focusing only to safeguard our environment, it is not sufficient actually. So whenever we want to deal with this socio-economic problems, so we need to deal with environment interdependently. So here we need to involve local communities, especially mainly to come up out of this to address the challenges of this environment and even social related challenges here. So we need finally an integrated approach or perspective here. So finally author said that we need reorientation of planning process, and we need to go for adoption of decentralized approach, and we need to plan for proper institutional arrangements, and we need to take some proper steps to enable political decisions. So this is the way forward. So this is just of this topic, and I hope it is very much clear. Now let us try to see next topic. Title says extending GST compensation as a reform catalyst. So this article especially talking about this GST compensation. So now let us try to talk about this topic in a very great detail. So already I said about what is a GST compensation introduction. I'm not going to repeat it once again. So if you say this article says that because of introduction of GST in India, the states they need to surrender some taxation rights. So that will lead to especially revenue loss to states. So in this context, center said that they are going to pay compensation for loss of revenue of the states, and they said that they will ensure 14% of growth annually for the states, and whatever the lag which is seen, so that lag will be given as GST compensation from the center, and it will be for 5 years. The time period here is 5 years. So the compensation was to be calculated as shortfall in actual revenue collections in GST. From the revenue, the states would have got from the taxes merged with GST. So if you are talking about what is the issue here is, in 2018-19, the shortfall in the payment requirement from the cess collection was about rupees 24,947 crore. Okay, so in 2018-19, the shortfall in the payment requirement from the cess collection was rupees 24,947 crore, which could be met from the surpluses of the previous 2 years kept as balance in the compensation fund. But what happened in 2021? So we came up with this coronavirus that entered into life. So especially in March 2020, there was abrupt imposition of nationwide lockdown. So because of this, what happened? So center which mainly found there is crunch in this compensation cess. So because of closure of industries, closure of factories, closure of shops, what happened? There is decreasing of consumption by the people, and there is no proper collection of cess. So at that time, Union government decided to pay 1.1 lakh crore by borrowing from this Reserve Bank of India under a special window, and the interest of this repayment they were to be paid from the collections from the compensation cess in the future. So however, finally center paid entire compensation to these states, and later on they came up with agreement to pay compensation for the loss of revenue for a period of 5 years. So this 5 years it is going to be ended by June 2022. Okay. So because of this GST implementation, states are facing some revenue crisis. They are not getting proper revenue. And on other side, because of this COVID-19 pandemic, there is increasing of expenditure from the state side. So now states are asking that they need to extend this 5 years to further more 5 years. That's it. So if you are talking about what are the core issues regarding this GST, so first one here is technology. So technology platform that could be firmed up for a long time, due to which the initial planned returns they could not be filed. So whatever the technology they are using, because of this, so whatever the initial returns they mainly planned, they are not filed. And there is also some misuse. There is also some misuse of input tax credit by using some fake invoices. So because of this, there is having some adverse impact on revenue collection. Okay, and the next one here is the present structure of this 4 slabs like 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%. They are very much complicated, right? And if you see what is a need here is extending compensation payment for the loss of revenue for next 5 years is necessary, not only because of transition to GST, but still it will provide some comfort to state okay, to come up with this as par with this reform. So here we need this extension for further more 5 years. And the reforming the structure to complete the process of transition to a reasonably well structured GST. It is important not only for enhancement of buoyancy of taxation, but also reduce the administrative and as well as compliance cost as well. And finally, it will have some impact on ease of doing business and even to minimize the distortions. So this is gist of this topic, and I hope it is very much clear. And now let us try to see next topic. It is regarding hate speech in the time of free speech. So this article mainly talking about hate speech. Okay, so now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. So if you are talking about hate speech, first you need to know what is the meaning of this hate speech. Hate speech means nothing but whenever any person who is mainly saying some words whose intent it is to create hatred, okay, whose intention is to create hatred towards a particular group. The group may be a community or a religion or a race. So this speech may or may not have meaning, but this speech has some ability or capability to create violence. So such speech is called as hate speech. And if you are talking about this BPRD, Bureau of Police Research and Development, which mainly recently released a manual, okay, and this manual is for investigating agencies on cyber harassment cases, and that define that hate speech as a language, and this language mainly disintegrates and insults and threatens or targets an individual based on their identity or any other traits. And if you are talking about Law Commission of India, in this Law Commission of India 267th report, which mainly says that hate speech is stated as an incitement to hatred, primarily against a group of persons who are defined in terms of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, religious belief, and so on. So we are talking about what are the major reasons. There are two important reasons. First one is feeling of superiority. So one individual says that I am superior over the other. Okay, so because of the stereotypes which are present in our society, so that leads to feeling of superiority. And it's known as stubbornness to particular ideology. So whenever any person or any individual who is stick to some particular ideology and they are not caring for the right of coexisting peacefully, and that will leads to this hate speech. And next one is legal position of hate speech. So we are having different sections of Indian Penal Code, that is section 153A and section 153B. So section 153A and section 153B of IPC punishes the acts that mainly cause enmity and hatred between the two groups. And next one is section 295A of IPC, which mainly deals with punishing acts with malicious intention, outrage, and the religious feeling of a class of persons. And this one is section 5051 and section 5052, which mainly talks about publication, circulation of content which may cause ill will or hatred between the groups of an offense. And if you are talking about under this Representation of People's Act, so section 8 of this Representation of People's Act of 1951, which mainly prevents a person convicted of illegal use of freedom of speech from contesting an election. So it is mainly talking about illegal use of freedom of speech. And next one is section 123(3)(a) and 125 of Representation of People's Act, which mainly bars the promotion of animosity on the grounds of race, religion, community, caste, or language. And if you are talking about suggestions, what can be done? So recently Vishwanathan Committee in 2019, which mainly proposed inserting of section 153B, 153C subclass B, and as well as section 505A in IPC regarding incitement to commit an offence regarding on grounds of religion, race, caste, community, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, place of birth, residence, language, disability, or tribe. Okay, we need to punish under these sections. And this section is also talking about some punishment up to 2 years and as well as a fine with rupees 5,000. And next one is Besbura Committee 2014, It mainly proposed amendments to section 153C of IPC, and under this section it mainly says that it can be punishable by 5 years and fine or both, and section 509A of IPC, and under this there is a punishable by 3 years or fine or both. And if you're talking about Supreme Court judgments, so first one is Shreya Singhal versus Union of India. So these in this case, famously, Supreme Court raised some issues regarding section 66 of Information Technology Act 2000, and it said that it is mainly related to the fundamental right, or which mainly comes under part of Indian Constitution, that is regarding freedom of speech and expression. So here the court differentiated between what is discussion, what is advocacy, incitement, and as well as it also came up with this important essence of this article 19 subclass 1, okay, 1A. And also in this Aru Bhuvan versus State of Assam case, court held that mere act cannot be punished unless an individual resorted to violence or inciting any other person to violence, then only we can take into consideration, that is hate speech. So unless and until, mere speech which is not causing any violence or not inciting any person to do violence, here is it will not be amounting under this hate speech. So this is just of this topic. And now let us try to see next topic. It is regarding BrahMos advanced variant test fire. So this article we are talking about this BrahMos missile. So this article will be important from science and technology, which mainly comes under GS paper 3. Now let us try to see context. If you see context, it mainly says that an extended range C2C variant, okay, an extended range C2C variant of BrahMos supersonic cruise missile was test fired, okay. So BrahMos supersonic C2C variant has been test fired. And if you're talking about some important details which are given here, so advanced C2C variant of this BrahMos supersonic cruise missile was tested from this INS Visakhapatnam, and in this successful test firing certifies that there is accuracy of ship's combat system, and it also validates this new capability the missile provides for the Navy and as well as for the nation, okay. So this is also important for our Atmanirbhar Bharat, okay. And now let us try to see some facts. So if we're talking about these BrahMos missiles, they are mainly designed and developed by BrahMos Aerospace, and it is a joint venture of this DRDO and as well as Russia. And if you're talking about some more important details regarding this BrahMos, it is a medium range supersonic cruise missile, and it can be launched from submarines, ships, aircrafts, and as well as land. So it mainly operates on fire and forget principles, okay. It mainly operates on fire and forget principles, and it does not require further guidance after the once launch is done. And if you say range, it is like 290 kilometers. You have to remember this range, okay. And now let us try to see next topic. It is regarding India's passport rank improves 83 from 90. So this article, it is important from our governance point of view, which mainly comes in the GS paper 2. And you can expect a question like India's passport rank, which is released by which organization. So this can be a prelims question. So if you see context, it mainly says that India's passport power has improved this quarter compared to 2021. So this quarter passport power had been increased, and this year rank is 83 in this Henley passport index, and last year rank was 90, and now this year it is 83. So if you see details, it mainly says that in 2020 its rank stood at 84, okay. In 2016 rank is 84, and India rank is 85th along with Mali and as well as Uzbekistan, if you are seeing in this 2016. And which are the countries topping the index? Japan and Singapore, they are topping this index. And since 2005, so this Henley passport index ranks world's passports according to the number of destinations, okay. So this rank is based on the number of destinations their holders can access without a prior visa, and it is based on the data from International Air Transport Association. So this data is based on International Air Transport Association. So if we are talking about some facts regarding this Henley passport index, so what is this index about? So this Henley passport index, it is the original ranking of all world's passports, okay. So it is the original ranking of all the world's passports. According to the number of destinations their holders can access without a prior visa. So how many countries they can go. So if you're talking about this index, which mainly created by H. Kellin, okay, he is a chairman of Henley and Partners, and this is mainly based on exclusive data from this International Air Transport Association. So this association, which mainly maintains world's largest and as well as most accurate database of travel information, and this ranking mainly launched in 2006 and mainly includes about 199 different passports. So this is gist of this topic. And now let us try to see next topic. It is regarding Ganga Sagar Mela. So here we need to focus on this. What is this Ganga Sagar Mela? So this will be important from our GS paper 1 under art and culture. So if you are talking about context, it mainly says that Calcutta High Court modified its order regarding this Ganga Sagar Mela and said only those having this COVID-19 positive report in past 72 hours, they can visit this Sagar Island. So you have to know where is this location of this Sagar Island. So I want to give you one homework. So you have to do some research regarding different islands which are present in India. For example, if you see, this is the coast. So in this coast also you will be having some islands, and even in the river also we can see riverine islands will be there. So let me know which are the riverine islands which are present in India, and as well as which are the islands that we can see in the coast of India. Okay. So now let us try to see some details. Only those who are having this COVID-19 negative in this RT-PCR report within 72 years, so within this 72 hours, they will be permitted for this Ganga Mela. Okay, and if you're talking about some facts regarding this Ganga Sagar Mela, so this Ganga Sagar Mela is one of the religious festival which mainly celebrated on the Sagar Dweep, that is Sagar Island in the West Bengal. Okay, so this Ganga Sagar Mela, so in the name itself is saying that Sagar, so it can be seen in this Sagar Island in West Bengal state of India. And this Ganga Sagar Mela, it is the second biggest fair in India after Kumbh Mela. So this Sagar Mela, it is the second biggest fair. And if you're talking about the time of festival, so this Ganga Sagar Mela, it is a 6-day fair which mainly held in the month of January, okay, on the day of Makar Sankranti. And this Ganga Sagar Mela ritual, it is a ritual of pilgrims taking bath in the holy water, and they will visit a famous Kapil Muni temple, okay, which is present very near. And this Ganga Sagar, it is one of the largest village of Sagar Island here, and in this in this Ganga Sagar village, it is mainly under the administration of the Sundarbans in West Bengal. And if you are talking about location of this Ganga Sagar, it is mainly situated on this West Bengal coast, okay, where river Ganga which mainly meets this Bay of Bengal. And if you are talking about significance, so it is one of the important fair that mainly celebrated in this occasion of this Makar Sankranti, and every year this Sagar Island see the gathering of lakhs of devotees from all the parts of India here. Okay, so this is about this topic. And now let us try to see yesterday's question explanation part. So first question is regarding Himalayan mountains. They are tectonic in origin, so dissected by fast flowing rivers in their youthful stages. So if we are talking about stages of the river, we will be having 3 stages, right? We have youth stage, mature stage, and as well as old stage. In youth stage, the flow of water, the velocity of water is very high, so it will be creating some erosion landforms, right? So in this youth stage especially, it will include the source where they originated. So here in these areas, normally you know that these Himalayan rivers are perennial rivers, and they will be getting the source from especially some mountains, right? So because of this, we can see the water velocity is very high, and we can see most of these erosional features here like gorge, V-shaped valleys, rapids, waterfalls. And in this mature stage, we can see these V-shaped valleys which are formed in this youth stage that will be coming into this U-shaped. And in the old stage, we can see some depositional features that mainly seen like deltas. So correct option here is 4, all the above. And second question here, it is regarding Karevas, right? So the Kashmir Himalayas, they are famous for this Kareva formation, which is useful for cultivation of saffron or saffron. So this point you can see directly in your NCERT. So it is a very simple question. And next question is about the British introduced a tea plantation in this Darjeeling and Sikkim Himalayas, looking at some of the favorable conditions. So what are those favorable conditions? As we all know that the Sikkim Himalayas and this Darjeeling, they are having gentle slope but not steep slope. So in this steep slope, we cannot go for growing of this tea. So you can eliminate this first statement. And next one here is thick soil cover with low organic content. But for growing of tea, we need very high organic content. So this second one is also wrong. And we have seen well distributed rainfall, yes, and we have seen mild winters. So correct option here is 3 and 4. That is option 3 is correct answer. Okay, so this is about yesterday's question, and now let us try to see today's questions. So first one is regarding Terai region. Okay, the Terai region of northern plains supports luxurious growth of natural vegetation and varied wildlife population. This is because, so here you need to know what is this Terai region. You can see this type of Terai region, Bangar, Khadar in your northern plains, and you can see directly in your NCRTs. So first option here is re-emerging of rivers from Babbar flow in under-marketed channels, here creating marshy and swampy conditions. And this one is all fertile coarse load is deposited at Terai region after rivers re-emerge from Babbar region. And next one is the Terai region is crossed by large Himalayan rivers which regularly deposit silt and clay here. So you have fourth one is both 1 and 3, and try to refer your NCRT and try to read this Terai region and try to answer this question. And next one is consider the following statements about the Western and Eastern Ghats. So if you draw the diagram here we have Western Ghats and here we have this Eastern Ghats, right? So first statement here is Western Ghats are comparatively higher in elevation than Eastern Ghats. So this is the first statement. And Western Ghats are more continuous than Eastern Ghats. So if you see this image, then you can see the second statement is absolutely correct. And next one is the Eastern and the Western Ghats, they meet each other at Nilagiri Hills. So finally they will be meeting at Nilagiri Hills. So here you need to find the correct option which is given below. And next one is consider the following statements with regard to Western Coastal Plain. So if you see here it is our west coast and here we have Western Ghats and here this part, okay, and here this part is our western coast. So first point here is Western Coastal Plains provides natural condition for development of ports and harbors. And next one is the rivers flowing through Western Coastal Plains do not form any deltas. So here you need to choose the correct answer which is given below. So today's questions are very easy and you can read NCRTs to get the conceptual clarity as well. And in tomorrow's lecture, I am going to give the explanation and solutions as well. So these are some important articles that appeared in this today's newspaper. So before concluding, I want to make a small announcement on this platform. If you want to clear UPSC, I will strongly suggest you to join this prelims answer writing test series and as well as mains answer writing course that we are offering in Rathod's IAS. And one more thing here is we also providing foundational course for UPSC. In this complete foundational course of GS, we are providing like more than 700 hours of video lectures, recorded video lectures, and we are providing conceptual clarity, and we are not compromising on the quality of education at all. And the entire course of this GS foundation is 60,000 rupees for 1.5 years, and it includes prelims test series and as well as mains answer writing course. And apart from that, if you want to take some individual courses like economy, history, geography, disaster management, science and technology, environment and ecology, in which areas you are weak, you can also take those individual courses. So details of this course are given in description box, so please see once. And if you want to watch demo videos, so you can visit our website Rathod's IAS Academy, and there you can watch 3 demo videos in each and every module. Okay, and if you want to talk to me directly regarding these courses, you can call to this number 8074765513. Okay, I am the academic director of this Rathod's IAS. And one more thing here is, if you want to download the app of this Rathod's IAS Academy, you can see the link which is given in description box and you can easily download that app. So by this I am concluding today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to Rathod's IAS Academy and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. and try to enroll these courses which are very, very helpful. Thank you so much.